Thank you, Ibrahim, for the background report and for those questions, which I know that the guest already is prepared to respond to them. Seated already in the studio for today's conversation, it's the Honorable Minister of State Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliu Sabi Abdullahi. Honorable Minister, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Honorable Minister, this tractor initiative is one of the most ambitious when it comes to mechanizing agriculture in Nigeria in recent years. Can you walk us through, specific gaps that this is intended to fill?
Well, thank you very much for having me. First, let me congratulate our dear President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, whose vision actually saw to what we're actually seeing on ground today. And his courage, his commitment, and his passion for ensuring that what he says in his heart is actually what he uses as a basis for action, because he always tells us he wants a Nigeria where no one goes to bed hungry, which means he's deeply concerned about the food security situation. And that explains why he declared a state of emergency in 2023 when he came on board, just barely 2 months or thereabout, I think sometimes in July or so, 2023. Now, what I just want to place here on record is that we've always talked about our agriculture as the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. And when we talk about diversifying our economy, we talk about agriculture as the main, foundation upon which diversification of the economy should take place. And of course, when you talk about agriculture, you are talking about food security. Because if you are able to feed your citizens, then their productivity in so many other fronts is guaranteed. And just like they say, a hungry man is an angry man. So I think the president understands all of this. But then, what are the challenges of Nigerian agriculture? The basic is low productivity of our farms and farmers generally. A situation where we have varieties that you can plant, and when you plant, you'll be able to get maybe 5 tons, 6 tons. You will notice that farmers are grappling with half of that. So, based on experts' knowledge, it's clear, and everybody knows that one of the key drivers of your productivity will be how you work, the good agricultural practices. Now, in looking at that is where you talk about mechanization. Mechanization here means using mechanical devices that have this horsepower capacity to do some of these things that our farmers are used to doing using their manual power. And that is why we talk about the drudgery of agricultural operations in Nigeria, where you are using hoe and cutlass, and that is, to many people now, that is demeaning. It gives the picture of a poor, wretched person, and so on and so forth. Meanwhile, in countries that are doing very well in agriculture, it is the mechanization rate that is used as a basis to gauge how your farm operations are either modern or still living in the past. And I think in the case of Nigeria, record has shown what we have as our mechanization rate is about 0.27 horsepower per hectare. And that is low even by African average. Because even by African average, at least it should be 1.5 or thereabout. And when you talk about the global average, you should be talking about 2.5. And I think with what the president has packaged as mechanization programs, because this one is the Renewed Hope Mechanization Program, the Belarus component. Then we also have the John Deere component, and then we have the Green Imperative Project, and then we also have the Greener Hope Productivity Program. Now, all of these are mechanization programs designed to definitely frontally attack our capacity to increase this, horsepower available per hectare. Now, what we have seen from all of this is this program is the first now that has been delivered, and it has 2,000, tractors of different, what did they call it, make.
And the tractors are in town?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's what the president just launched. And you can go to the National Agricultural Seed Council complex and see them. Those ones because that's the space that is available. You can see everywhere is taken over by what they call it. Some are still there that are going to also be assembled because the space is not enough. But the target is 2,000 and they are all delivered. The other aspect is the plow. There are plow, there are harrows, and then there are also ridges. The plows and the what do they call it, harrow are 2,000 units, while the ridges are 1,000 units. Okay. And we also have the what do they call it, the sprayers, the bloom sprayers. We also have the planters and then the harvesters. Now, what is specifically special about this is the fact that the president is concerned is not just to go and bring tractors and just, you just dump it and then no. He really wants these things to help our agriculture, because food security can only be guaranteed when you are able to produce food year on year. And as a policy, we are now on all year round farming. Nigeria is no longer on, dry season farming, rainy season farming. No. It's now all year round farming. And that is what we are promoting now. Because we believe from the southern part to the northern part, we have the capacity to do all year round farming. And that is what the government is promoting. And to do that, it means you need mechanization to support farmers' operation. Okay. And what we have here, honestly, like anyone can attest, if you know the history of our agriculture, no one single government has been able to achieve this since our independence, to the best of my knowledge.
Well, it's a commendable, actually, effort by the government, noting that the president is very keen at ensuring that no Nigeria goes to bed hungry. Yeah. Now, how will this mechanization actually promote food security and economic development in the country?
All right. Like I said, if you look at our farm operations, I'll give you some scenarios where you are able to, if farmers can access these facilities or this equipment to be able to prepare their land. And the program itself is designed such that we have 12 mobile maintenance services equipment. There are vehicles that are going to be for the purpose of maintenance all over the country, and they'll be deployed according to the space and how these tractors are also being deployed. Now, it will help farmers to prepare their land based on the standard good agricultural practice, because the operators are going to be properly trained in terms of how to do this, and these equipments are good enough, and so they'll be able to do the work based on the standard that is supposed to be done. And the success of a farmer lies in how well he prepares the land, because that's where you are going to plant. And if the land is well prepared with good, based on the good agricultural practices, then farmers will be able to plant at the time they're supposed to plant. You can imagine if it would take maybe 10 days for a farmer using his manual labor to get his farm ready, and the rains are coming. First, you want to start planting, immediately those areas he has finished, which means he will be having an uneven planting, regime in his farm. But with mechanization, the farmer will be able to clear his land properly, do all the necessary preparations, and when it's time to plant, and there are mechanized planting devices, he uses that to also plant. The depth of planting is guaranteed, the spacing is guaranteed, and so at the end of the day, when it is time for him to do the spraying and everything, and all of these things are done properly, honestly, the productivity in terms of the yield per hectare of the farmer is better guaranteed. Now, you also agree with me that, for example, a farmer that has 10, 20, 30 hectares of land, by the time it's time for harvesting, it takes time to harvest. In the process, we've seen situations where farmers have had to lose the crops because they couldn't finish harvesting and the rains are back. So that is what mechanization does. And we believe that if we get it right, we have very huge potential in this country. Our agricultural land is 93 million hectares, of which only 34 million hectares are currently being operated. So we're not even, that is about 48%, we're not even up to 50% of our capacity. So we still have a lot.
Have you put in place proper measures to ensure that these farmers, especially local farmers, have access to these tractors?
Well, the program, there are the mechanism for deploying these things are this. First, we've also recognized, we have to look at our institutions, the universities, the research institutes that do this work. They will also get component of this so that they can enhance, because, for example, for seed production, the research institutes are supposed to produce seed. So they'll be given components to enable them properly have seed production. Because, again, here, the president has said, plant the right seed, feed an entire nation. And that is apt because no matter how well you also prepare the land, if you don't have the right seed to plant, it's as if you've done nothing. So we are looking at all of this particular component. Then we're also looking at individuals with large farms that would like to, subscribe to, the equipment. There's also provision for that. And farmers as cooperatives, as farmers group, will also be encouraged to have access. And then there is linkage to financing, the Bank of Agriculture, the Jais Bank, and others, to ensure that by the time farmers are going to key into having this equipment, they should be able to pay with less, burden of high interest. And we are looking at 0 to 5 years repayment, which means 0 if you have outright, you want to buy outright, yes, there is that provision. But for those who will take the longer route, of course, arrangements are also being made with these financial institutions. We don't believe, the president is upbeat about how farmers will definitely benefit from this. And that's what we're looking at. At the end of the day, if these things are deployed, those who are going to operate it will be well trained, because these are very high caliber, equipment, very modern, and they are very
because
sturdy.
I was going to ask, do they have the requisite knowledge or the capacity to handle this?
They are simple equipment, but still there will be that training. It's part of the package.
Of course,
Training
because
is part of the
it's
package.
not something they are already used to.
It's coming on board now. Even if you have driven other tractors, for this particular one, there will be specific training package, and that is already on ground. It's ready for
Let's talk about the choice of a service provider model for this. What structures are in place to ensure that there is, efficiency and rural inclusiveness?
Yes, that is also part of the arrangement. I was still giving you different, provisions in terms of how this deployment is going to take place. Service providers are also part of it. And here we are looking at youth coming together to, take up this challenge, because we are looking at having agricultural mechanization service centers in each of the 774 local government areas. Now, if this happens, it means young Nigerians will be encouraged. They will have units that will make them to be economical in terms of managing it, and they will all be trained in terms of this service provision, because a service provider is supposed to have the capacity and the competency and the skills to be able to do what these equipments will do for the farm. And the farmer will just subscribe to that and he gets the service. So we are aware of that, and it's part of the package. And like I said, what is important here is that there are also spare parts.
Okay.
I was going to get
spare
there.
parts for each of these equipments
To be maintained.
have been supplied, yes. And then based on the, remember, it's a nation-to-nation bilateral partnership. And so that partnership will guarantee that training will continue, and overall, in the long run, provision will be made for assembly plant and even continuous production in country. So it's a long, immediate to short term to medium term. There are all objectives as far as this mechanization scheme is concerned.
All right, okay. We just want to remind our viewers that you can also participate in this conversation by sending us messages, your questions via the number on your screen. Send SMS or send WhatsApp to us. So the Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Production will respond to your questions. Now, I just want to find out, how can investors, are investors being attracted, to actually support this agricultural mechanization? How are you doing that?
Well, I would say investors.
Or is it only government that is in it?
No, let me say this. There are a lot of private sector interest in agriculture in Nigeria. And you agree with me that because of the interest government has shown now, you will see that not just the federal government, state governments are also now looking at agriculture, and they are also looking at the PPP model, public-private partnership.
Okay.
And for example, Niger State, the former governor, Mohammed Umar Bago, has brought in a model. And that is why you saw him unveiling 1,000 tractors, because he has created a special purpose vehicle called Niger Foods. Niger Foods has government enablement with an equity, but the controlling equity is private sector. So these are models, and these are all based on the inspiration by the president that, look, we need to feed our country. We need our citizens to be able to have food. And it's not just talking about food security. The president is talking about food sovereignty, which means we should be able to control our own food system by producing what we consume and consuming what we produce. And so it's a whole new philosophy. And I think because the president is the champion, state governments are also being inspired. Some of them working together with the private sector, while some of them are creating the enabling environment for private sector participation. For example, in the same Niger State, there is, what did they call it, this private group that are into real estate, but they've now gone into agriculture. And they are massively investing in Gushishi local government, what do they call this, Brains and Hammers.
Okay.
So you can see a whole new thing is coming on board. And there are many other private sectors. For example, I know there is a young lady, I've forgotten the name now, but they are there in between Ogun and Lagos State. They are working, and they are also doing some elements of mechanization. So I think what is important is that the president has created a new vision. And when you are able to provide leadership for a vision, you get people coming in. And different people are now taking specific interest. And I think as at the last count, between the 36 state governments and FCT, different states have procured tractors of different horsepower specification, all to support their own agricultural production. Niger State has 1,000. Jigawa State, for example, is 3,000. Cross River State, what we saw is 108. And different, Kaduna, Kwara, all of them.
But beyond all of this, Honorable Minister, you've talked about the mechanization, but you've also said that we are not farming up to 50% of agriculture, arable land available to us. So what is the government doing to encourage more people to go into farming? For instance, if I want to farm, for instance, are you going to say, okay, there's land for you? Do you give land just to encourage people to farm, or you have to, go and buy the land and then be able to farm?
Well, you see, it's a two-pronged thing. You need to understand, because this is a federation, and land is in the state.
Yeah.
And the various state governments, like I've told you, are having schemes that are attracting private sector. And if a private sector is interested in families to approach the states, and the states right now, because I know in terms of the interface we have at the National Economic Council, where my brother Senator Abubakar Kyari attends almost every time this council meeting holds, for us to give our own insight and to also get the insight of the state governors. The state governors are also taking these things very seriously. And that's why I cited the example of Niger State for you. The private sector that are there, they are getting land from the state government. That's part of the equity contribution of the state. Now, in Jigawa State, the same thing. In the wheat production, we're having private sectors are all there, having different categories of farm sizes. We know of about 3 different farm groups that are having 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 hectares of land. So it's all about creating the enabling environment. And I think this is what I talk about, the vision of the president, showing that yes, government is truly interested in this and it's also going to give all necessary support for this. But you know, for private sector, there are a lot of things they look at beyond even the land. And that's why as a ministry, for example, we are currently working on looking at what we call the ease of doing agriculture and agribusiness in Nigeria. That work is ongoing currently by the ministry. We are also looking at the laws, that agricultural laws, with a view to reviewing them. I think we just flagged this off about 2 months ago. The work has started, but we did a stakeholder validation to look at what is being done. Now, all of this is designed to support the private sector to see that agriculture is the next real thing. And remember also, we have this special agro-processing zone, which all the state governments are keen into. Now, the model here is that you must have an off-taker that is a private sector. So you can see there is quite a lot of latitude and areas where we are providing. Meanwhile, you remember for the wheat program, we are working with the, what do they call it? What do they call this group that, food, what's that called? I've forgotten the name of the company.
Okay.
But, we are working with them in terms of the wheat production. So what I just want to say here is that if government creates the enabling environment, the private sector knows how to take opportunities.
Okay.
And the opportunities are now there. Meanwhile, you talk about the 34,000, 34 million hectares I talked about. What is the level of mechanization in this? That's where the 0.27 mechanization rate is. And that's why it's not even, doing enough. So this mechanization is designed to go into the current production system. But like I said, we have 4 mechanization schemes. By the time those other ones come on board, definitely the latitude for growth exists. And remember, agriculture is to help us achieve diversification, which means we need to produce what we consume, but also we need to target where we have the competitive and comparative advantage to produce for export, so that we can have other sources of foreign exchange earning. And you see, right now, I know, for example, when the president attended the Saudi Africa, summit, there was a lot of, engagement, and the Saudi investors have come into Nigeria. They've signified interest in soybeans production, for example. And so we have created a platform, private sector driven, and they are working on how to make soybeans one of the major commodities that we can produce and also export.
All
so
right.
There's quite a lot happening.
All right. Okay, Honorable Minister, we have some responses from some of our viewers, which I would like you to probably respond to. This one says, this from Mohammed Awal Musa Afamai from Kano. It says, good morning, Honorable Minister, good morning, presenters. I salute this administration for developing this great initiative. This one is from Dajuma from Taraba. It says, good morning, please. When will Nigeria stop the importation of husk rice, which has been to the detriment of our local farmers? And this from Ononuju from Abuja. It said, Nigerian farmers appreciate the tractors, but security and protection of the crops when planted is also very important. Government should take note of that. And this one says, this one is from David, King David from Rivers State. Which office can farmers in private sector liaise with in Rivers State for access to seedlings and other things to boost production? Probably you respond to those comments and questions before Victor will read his own.
All right, thank you very much. I think for the last question, King David from Rivers.
Yeah, Rivers.
We have a field office in the Federal Secretariat of Rivers State.
Okay.
You should go there and contact the state coordinator of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. And definitely he will get further information and guide. Then for the issue of security, yes, it's also very important. And I want to say that the president realizes this, and that is why a lot of work is ongoing. Definitely the security situation when this government took over is not the same today. Yes, I agree also there are challenges of these flashes of cases here and there, but we must also commend our security agencies for the work they are doing. And I think the president has also given them more marching orders, and I think they are brazen up and they are doing their best. There are successes here and there, and I think one that comes to mind in particular is the Birningwari axis that was impassable and no work was nothing. You can't even go through there. Today, it's a production site. The markets are open, farmers are producing. And there are other places, even in Niger State, where we do have serious chemistries here and there. There are, some improvements. But we agree these are not issues that have gone away. And that's why the president is continuously charging the security agents to also step up and do what they can to ensure that the farms are secure. Farmers can also go to, to produce, because we know it's a key, what do they call it, a component of our production system. And I think to also complement these difficulties that we have seen, we are currently looking at institutions and also our, agencies that have land. And that's why even in talking about the tractor, in the, what do they call the formula of what we're going to, we told you Universities of Agricultural Research Institutes will also get component, because we want them to partake in ensuring that the lands available to them, if they are supposed to produce for the purpose of demonstration, then let them produce. Because whatever is produced, no matter how little, will go a long way in contributing to availability of food, or preventing those who will have otherwise gone to market will have their own portion. Because usually when you see food prices, it's a function of demand and supply. And that's why we are ramping up production. And like I said, as part of the strategy for ramping up production, what we have said is that let's go for all year-round production system, which means we are looking at irrigation as another very major component. And I think we have different schemes that we are looking at now to develop so that we can have irrigation facilities, especially the ones that will be based on renewable energy, because the cost of irrigating farms also, we know, is high. Okay. So all of these things that the questions being asked are issues that we know and we are working very hard upon. One other thing I would like to say here is that, for example, the cooperative sector, we know the farm cooperatives, and the president has given us a marching order on that, and we are working very hard also on that. And the narrative is changing for the cooperative sector, because we believe if you have very strong cooperatives, the economy of scale, like this, equipment, a cooperative society can now take 2, 3, 4, and their members can have access to the services in terms of service, provider that you talked about earlier. So we are leaving no stone unturned, because we know this is a renewed hope government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and he's definitely upbeat about ensuring that we deliver on that mandate.
What about the stoppage of importation of husk rice?
Yes, you see, the most of the issues, if government has given a policy, then smugglers also have their own, things they do. But as far as government is concerned, if we increase production and we have volume and our processors are able to process, I think the situation will take care of itself naturally. And that is what government is working hard to do. We are producing for rice, is irrigation. Under the National Agricultural Growth Scheme program, we are promoting rice both for the dry season and for the rainy season. And right now, we are also having a second phase of that program, which is supported by the Japanese, facility. Okay. So I think we are working very hard to make sure that these things happen.
I would like you at some point to speak to the use of technology, if government is considering that, because technology is both the present and the future. But let's take these messages first, and then you can address all of them. From Adebamiru Adeyinka from Kuchigoro, Abuja, says, good morning, Honorable Minister. How can a poor man and poor young man in the village benefit from this mechanization that has no capital strength? Similar to what I asked earlier. And from Daniel Morris from Lagos, good morning. Please, when will you stop the importation of horse rice, which has been to the detriment of our local farmers? I think he already took it. That's from Danjuma in Lagos. And then it's great to plan to go into mechanized farming. Security of farmers should also be improved. He's Morris from Lagos. And from Akeju Olagbaju, former director, he says the Honorable Minister has spoken well. And this time around, the program must succeed, and skilled operators must be trained, and every tractor must be tracked. Okay? And from John Ade, Honorable Minister, please note that the FCT is naturally a cashew zone. What are you doing to replace all the cashew trees that are cut down daily for real estate development? That's John Ade. From this one, it reads, I want to ask the Honorable Minister for Agriculture, the people that will be well trained with regards to the new agricultural machines, will the trainee be employed by the local government? And from Ogunshakin Paul Babafemi, we appreciate the present administration led the Farmers Club to enable individuals benefit from the scheme. And finally, good morning, Nigeria. I would like to advise the Honorable Minister to also engage civil servants. That's also from Danjuma in Taraba State.
Thank you very much. Quite a number of questions. And I think one of the things I would like to say here is this. In terms of creating inclusivity, the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is clear that inclusivity should be the watchword of all our programs and programming. And that's why we have to have a bouquet of options in terms of providing this implementation strategy. Now, for the civil servant, for example, if you are a farmer, they have cooperatives. And that's why we are saying that we're trying to revamp and reform the cooperative sector to give it more bite, to enable them get more power in terms of their operational strategy, because the cooperative sector is really a very veritable tool for delivering on some of these things. And it is part of Mr. President's agenda. Now, what we are looking at is, even for the young man from one of the local governments, is it Kuje you talked about?
Yes.
Who asked, how does he? It's all about promoting cooperative. When different people with low capacity come together, they have an enhanced capacity. And they can, through their cooperative, now have subscription, either to another maybe higher cooperative society that will have the capacity to maybe procure these things. What is important is for the service to be rendered, because most of the smallholder farmers do not have the farm holding that will require you to buy a tractor. It is those that have large farms that will be able to now procure one of the tractors, and the tractor can do all the work for them, because the tractors are designed to have mounted trailers and all the other implements that they will use for the farm operation. So for those who are civil servants, I will encourage them to ensure that they approach their cooperative societies, because they are one of the options where the economy of scale will be derived from. If a cooperative society have 1, 2, 3, and then you are a member, then you can get the service of the available implement or tractor that is with that. For those who have capacity, like I said, who have big farm, because we also have to advise you. If you know you don't have big farm, why do you need a tractor? In terms of your productivity, in terms of your profitability, you are not going to be profitable, except if you are going to also provide service to other people. So which one are you going to do? So I think we need to look at that. Then in terms of the, what do they call it, those to be trained, it's going to be based on agribusiness entrepreneurship, because those service providers are going to be entities. They are going to be private sector entities. It's not going to be government. The whole of this thing is just government enabling, but it's going to also be private sector driven.
Yeah.
This is the way to ensure that both the servicing, maintenance, and all these other things are done properly. Now, like I said, we're going to have agricultural mechanization service centers all over the country. The idea here is to have young Nigerians that will be packaged, encouraged to put themselves together to operate these mechanization service centers. They will be able to maintain their tractors, including even have the capacity to do it for other people who are having tractors from other sources.
Okay.
You understand? But most importantly, drive these tractors to farmers' field to be able to provide the services. Now, these equipments are modern equipment. You talk about tracking. Yes, there is provision
so that
for
they
it to be
don't,
tracked.
we don't see them and then they disappear.
And when you are supposed to do certain things, the machines are, what do they call the package to be able to even tell you that you are due for servicing. And the way, based on what we are told, the provision for even not starting because you are supposed to service is there. That way, it's not just about having these tractors. The manufacturers are also interested in the performance of the tractor, because when the tractor is performing very well, then the capacity is expanded and more can be, requested from them. So I think there is a lot that is being packaged in terms of ensuring that this time around it's not business as usual.
It is business unusual. Yeah. But somebody spoke about trees that are being cut down. Infrastructure development and agriculture are in conflict.
No. That is talking about the FCT.
Particularly, but other parts of the country.
Yes, we know. But remember that if you are doing what we call regenerative agriculture, which is also another program that the ministry is promoting, we've talked about soil health scheme, for example. We are looking at all of those things. And, it's all about having the right skill set of people who know how to do farming. And if they know how to do farming, then remember, plants are supposed to be used as what? Hedges to prevent sheet erosion and the likes. So we are looking at all of these things, and for effect, unfortunately, yes, agriculture may be seen as a victim, but agriculture is also a promoter.
Okay, we have some other questions here. This one says, it gladdens, this from Abba Uche Innocent from Makati. It says, it gladdens my heart seeing this tractor, but my question is, what are the distribution ratio to various states? How do you distribute it to the various states?
Well,
then this one, okay, let me just take the others so that you can just respond to all of them. This one says, good morning, Honorable Minister. I'm Emmanuel from Akwa Ibom State. I have an idea to grow and I have a plot of land to cultivate, but I don't have money. How can government help me? That's Emmanuel Ekanem. This Honorable Minister, I thank Mr. President for the Renew Hope Agriculture. My concern is the distribution of the equipment. That is asking how the equipment will be distributed, among states. This one says, this one is from Niger Kotangura. It said, good morning, Minister. I've been a farmer, but all these government initiatives, we women are left behind. So how do you, we're talking about inclusivity now.
Yeah.
So how do you include the women? They are crying out now. So what role can extension services play in promoting agricultural mechanism in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Again, thank all our viewers for this question. It signifies interest, and that is what we want, because the more our citizens are interested in what we're doing, the more questions are asked, and the more we are also tasked to provide solutions and to look at issues, whether we have looked at them or we have not looked at them. So the first thing I would like to say is that for participation, in terms of the ratio, this is being worked out. It's not finalized yet.
Okay.
But my take is this. The president has said this is all over the country. And definitely we have to make sure it's all over the country. Okay. That's number one. Number two, in terms of the models which I've talked about, there are farmer organizations or farmer associations, there are cooperatives, and there are individual farmers, private sector, big farmers, who would like to subscribe, because this is going to be giving some rebate. There will be some support. It's not going to be at the cost price. This is to support the fact that this thing should be all over the place. And for those that do not have resources, this is why we are now saying that the instruments and mechanisms available is for them to join hands and form cooperative societies.
Okay.
It's much easier to have that collectives coming together to put their little effort together to become a bigger effort. And I think those that are asking this question, like the guy who said he wants to farm, he wants to let him join. There are a lot of cooperative societies all over. We are currently taking stock of the cooperative societies all over the state. We are working with them as part of the reform and revamp of the cooperative sector. So if they can do that, it will enable them to quickly have access. Now, the other aspect is that I think someone was asking about inclusivity of women.
Yes.
For example, we are promoting, and that is why we have the Nigerian, is it Nigerian Women in Agribusiness Cooperative Society, NWAB. They've just come on board. They are being enabled and empowered by the ministry. In fact, they are the ones that have come to us for us to give them, and they are all over the state now, working to ensure that this happens. And this particular platform will be one of the platforms, I believe, based on the good work they are already doing, and some others, because even in WABD, the Nigerian Women Agriculture Progressive Development Initiative, they are also having, such kind of, inroads where they are promoting, women involvement in agriculture. So those that have already created platforms and they are veritable and they are doing very well, they will be part of those who will benefit from all of this to make sure that women are not left behind in terms of the inclusivity. Because like I said here again, the president got it right. His renewed hope agenda clearly said inclusivity.
So what's the role of the extension services in all this?
For the extension service, remember we talked about good agricultural practice. So for this good agricultural practice to happen, extension agents will also be keyed in to what we are doing as a mechanization. And earlier in the day, if you remember, we have launched a platform that is currently being developed. We are building it up. We've already, introduced it. That is the National Electronic Extension Platform, the NIP.
Okay.
So it's currently being built because we have extension agents all over the federation. So that directory we are currently uploading, so that if farmer wants to have further information on certain things, he knows which extension agent is close to him. So you can see it's a lot of activities being put together. To build a system that has been a bit underperforming to a highly performing one requires a lot of changes, a lot of transformative activities. And that is what we are doing.
All right, Honorable Minister, we have just a minute before you go. As part of your closing remarks, somebody talked about when you are going to bring price control to bear on agricultural produce, so as to make the people a bit more comfortable. Perhaps in 30 seconds?
Yes, like I said, here again, there is a current work that is being done as directed by Mr. President to look at what we call price stabilization mechanism. And the price stabilization mechanism is one that helps countries to put in place a process that will check the fluctuation in food prices. And I think by the time that is fully done, we don't want to just come out and say anything. We want something that will work. And that is why it's not something we just come out and talk anyhow. It's something that is based on knowledge, We've done so many preliminary work, but we are yet to fully validate it. And when we fully validate it, it will be placed before Mr. President, because he's been very, very particular about this. Anytime he talks, he will ask you, how will this affect our citizens? How will this affect Nigerian farmers? And I think because of that, we need to do the homework to ensure price stabilization mechanism is something you need to put in place, where you have the measure, where you'll be able to say, okay, some people with bad behaviors are trying to get the price to go up, then you have a counter to counterbalance whatever they are doing.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for counterbalancing everything and making sure that everything works out well.
Yes.
Wish you all the best in this effort at ensuring food security for the country. Honorable Minister of State Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
We'll now take a break. After the break, we have the second discussion, which is on mobilizing women, mobilization of women. So stay tuned.